Hey guys, I'm back in New York and at my parents' house, and I have some books that I bought in Prague that I want to share. And there are a lot of bookstores in Prague, which I guess you might expect. But yeah, I bought several books, all of which are books by Czech authors that I haven't seen much in American bookstores, which is sort of why I bought them, except for one of them. Um, and I'll start with that one, who is this is the Czech translation of Sylvia Plath's Ariel, and I just thought that this would be cool to buy a book that I've already read in English in Czech, um, and see what I can do with it. I don't know. I just think it would be cool. So if you want a taste of what Czech is like, what that is what Czech looks like. Yeah, it's a pretty intimidating language. Although the nice thing about Czech is once you learn how all the different letters are pronounced, it's consistent throughout the whole language. They don't have words like thorough in Czech or anything like that. By the way, it's like 5 a.m. right now because of jet lag, so that's why it's like dark in here. But so that's the first one. The next one is The Good Soldier Švejk by Jaroslav Hašek. And if there were a novel, if you were to try to do a discussion on what is the great Czech novel, you would be hard pressed to get very far without talking about this novel. It's about a Czech man named Josef Švejk, who is drafted into the Austro-Hungarian army in World War One, and rather than being either obedient or being, totally rebellious, he actually decides to. Well, he decides to, or he's just too stupid, so stupid that he acts this way. It's unclear, but he, whenever an Austrian officer gives him an order, he follows it so literally that it kind of ends up defeating the purpose of that the officer had by giving the order. So it just always ends up screwing up their plans. And it's really funny. It's kind of like a black comedy. And I really wanted to read you the opening conversation because I remember reading it and just being totally charmed by it. So it starts with a woman talking, and she says, "And so they've killed our Ferdinand." And then Schweik responds, "Which Ferdinand, Mrs. Mueller?" "I know two Ferdinands. One is a messenger at Prusha's, the chemist's, and once by mistake he drank a bottle of hair oil there. And the other is Ferdinand Kokoschka, who collects dog manure. Neither of them is any loss." "Oh no, sir. It's His Imperial Highness, the Archduke Ferdinand, from Konopishche, the fat, churchy one." Yeah, I don't know. I was charmed by that opening, and it's kind of a good sampling of the humor of this book. But anyway, moving on to another classic of Czech literature, which is called A Bouquet by Karel Jaromír Erben. And it's also often called by its Czech name, Kytice. But it's a collection of old Czech folktales that he wrote into verse form. And there are also illustrations in here, which you can't see well at all because they're like black, but they are there. And the back cover of this actually compares it to Ovid's Metamorphoses. And as soon as I saw that, I had to buy it because I read Ovid's Metamorphoses this year and I loved it. So I'm hoping I will like this, and it'll be another classic of Czech literature to get under my belt. So yeah. The next is another, I guess, classic. It's published as a Penguin Modern Classic, actually. It's Closely Watched Trains by Bohumil Hrabal. And so it's about a 22-year-old Czech man who works at a railway station, as you might have guessed, and ends up playing a part in the Czech resistance against the Nazis during World War II, or at least it sounds like by the back cover, something like that. And I thought it sounded good. And it sounds like it's supposed to also be funny, and it's also made into a movie, I guess. So, yeah, that'll be interesting. The next is a novel by Ivan Klima called Love and Garbage, and it's about a man who, as the back says, I'm reading from the back, has responded to state suppression by becoming a street sweeper. From his vantage point in Prague's gutters comes a piercing vision of a world in which everything, from uncomfortable ideas to a former mistress, may be reduced to garbage, and only love has the power to grant permanence. So, yeah, I was intrigued by that, and what kind of got me going on this author, Ivan Klima in particular, was I saw a memoir by him at the bookstore, about sort of the Czech Republic in the 20th century, and sort of, living under a totalitarian regime, but I don't like reading memoirs of novelists before I've read at least one novel by them, so I will hopefully read that memoir eventually, but yeah. So, and the last three are all sort of the same story, but different tellings of it. So it's the legend of the Golem. No relation to the Lord of the Rings. It's an old Jewish tale, a Czech Jewish tale from Prague, of this creature that a young kind of arrogant student manages to bring to life, or at least that's what I get from what I've heard. And so it's sort of a Frankenstein-esque story, and also kind of a Faustian story, which is kind of what got me to really want to pick it up. But this version is by Edward Petishka, and the woman at the store said it was very readable, just his own rendition. He's a novelist, and he just did his own rendition, and it's supposed to be very good. The next one is by Ivana Pechachkova, which is this nice hardcover with an interesting picture on the front. That's supposed to be the Golem, as you might guess. But yeah, it's just another version by a different writer. These are all very short. They're all under 100 pages, which is why I didn't hesitate to buy all three. And then finally the last one is not just the Golem story, but also just some stories of the Jews in the Czech lands, as well as the Golem, and so it's old Jewish stories of the ghetto, and so this combines some history with some fiction, and includes the Golem story, obviously, and but others, and I like how the Jews came to the Czech lands and things like that. So yeah, and it's also, I think, a really beautiful edition. It kind of has Hebrew writing all over the inside. It's also actually a paperback, yet for some reason has a dust jacket. So that's interesting. But yeah, those are the books that I bought in the Czech Republic, and I'm excited to be reading some Czech literature soon. So yeah, thanks guys.